Hello, everyone, and welcome aboard from far and wide to the first ever In Orbit, your weekly news station dedicated to all things space. Be sure to follow us to keep up to date with the latest news around the globe. Our first story for today is Blue Origin is looking to get into the commercial space station business. A job posting on September 18th for an orbital habitat formation lead will be charged with leading the company's development of commercial space stations in low Earth orbit as a new production line. The job entails leading technical and business aspects of commercial space station development, including identifying customers and partners. It would also include quote unquote potential acquisitions to support that effort. The description places a particular emphasis on NASA as a potential user and funder of the effort. In its LEO commercialization strategy announced last year, NASA said it would support development of both commercial modules installed on the ISS as well as quote unquote free flyer space stations operating independently of the ISS. Bezos, in the past appearances, has shown images of giant space settlements modeled on the space colonies proposed by the late Gerald K. O'Neill a half century ago. Bezos has also discussed on many occasions using Blue Origin to establish the infrastructure to enable new commercial activity in space. That has included its work on launch vehicles and more recently lunar landers. Commercial space stations could be seen as another form of space infrastructure in the future. I sure hope they include space hotels in the future. Man, would I love to see it. Our next story for today, NASA used the release of a report on the Artemis program to seek full funding for the effort to return humans to the moon, warning that they had 6 months to secure its budget to keep a 2024 landing on schedule. The report largely summarized existing plans, but included a table outlining its budget requirements for implementing Phase 1 of Artemis. That goes through Artemis 3 human lunar landing in 2024. NASA projected spending $28 billion from fiscal year 2021 through 2025 on just that first phase. A total that includes works on the Space Launch System, Orion, Exploration Ground Systems, the Human Landing System, and various supporting science and tech development efforts. HLS is by far the largest program in that total, accounting for nearly $16.2 billion over a 5-year period. Its funding also is the most in jeopardy after the House passed an appropriations bill in July that provided the program with little more than $600 million for fiscal year 2021, a fraction of what the agency's request of more than $3.2 billion demanded. A final decision on funding for HLS, as well as the rest of NASA and the overall federal government, may still be months away. The 2021 fiscal year starts October 1st, but the Senate has yet to introduce, let alone pass, its version of appropriations bill for a new fiscal year. The House, meanwhile, introduced September 21st a continuing resolution to fund the federal government at 2020 levels from the start of the 2021 fiscal year through December 11th. Bridenstine said his base case scenario was one where the House and Senate worked out a final spending bill after the November election, reaching a compromise that secures full funding for HLS. Well, it won't be the first or last time NASA's asked for a bigger budget. Up next, NASA and the US Space Force have formally agreed to work together in areas like space policy, research, technology, and the protection of the planet from hazardous objects such as asteroids. Administrator Jim Bridenstine and Chief of Space Operations General John J. Raymond discussed the new Memorandum of Understanding September 22nd in a live virtual event hosted by the Mitchell Institute for Aerospace Studies. The memorandum replaces an agreement signed 14 years ago between NASA and the U.S. Air Force Space Command, which was disestablished when the Space Force was created. The Space Force will ensure freedom of action in space, so NASA can safely return to the Moon and achieve human exploration of Mars. NASA is a civilian agency and has no role in military operations. They would turn to the Space Force, for example, if its assets in orbit came under hostile attack. Bridenstine noted that countries are acquiring lasers and other technologies to jam satellites, as well as cyber weapons to hack into space systems. When a spacecraft is attacked, identifying the perpetrator is critically important, and it's very difficult when it comes to space, he said. NASA and Space Force will share data to help address these issues in the future. Now for something a bit more unusual. Our next story, a new space toilet is heading to the International Space Station, with its official name being the Universal Waste Management System. The new toilet is smaller than the current toilets aboard the station. It's more user-friendly and also includes 3D printed titanium parts. NASA says these are just some of the upgrades that will make it better suited for future deep space exploration missions. While the new toilet is being installed on the ISS to make life a little bit better for the space station astronauts, the system will also be tested for use on the new Orion spacecraft, part of the Artemis missions to the moon. In hoping to make the new toilet more user-friendly, engineers gathered feedback from astronauts and set out to design more comfortable attachments that would make boldly going in space a more enjoyable experience. In particular, the new design better meets the needs of female crew members. Also, the new design will allow for increasing the amount of usable water that can be recovered. Since 2008, astronauts' waste has been chemically treated and processed, which turns it back into potable water that is reconsumed. The new toilet is part of a resupply delivery targeted to launch next week, carrying tons of science and supplies up to the orbiting laboratory, or should I say, laboratory. And that concludes the first of all the latest earth-shattering news for this week. Follow us to keep up to date with more exciting stories. Also, check us out on our other social media to support the content we make. Stay safe and see you in orbit.